Good morning, everybody, and Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues from UN missions, the United Nations Systems Society, fellow participants at HLPF, distinguished guests from countries. It's great to welcome you here to UNDP, and as well as those joining virtually on Zoom. I see a lot of colleagues on Zoom, and that's really excellent to see. Thank you for taking time to be part of this important discussion. I'm sorry we're starting a few minutes late. We've been wrestling with overrunning events, and broken trains, and many other issues this morning, but here we all are for this discussion, this side event on governance and SDG16, elevating the role of statistics in promoting just, peaceful and inclusive societies, which is co-hosted by the permanent missions of South Africa and 𝗂𝗶 𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏 to the United Nations, the Prior Group on Governance Statistics, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and UNDP. SDG16 is both foundational and urgent. It not only calls for peaceful, just, and inclusive societies, it also underpins progress across the entire 2030 agenda. As we face growing challenges globally, the importance of strengthening institutions and investing in good governance data has never been more critical. SDG16 is particularly important to UNDP because it lies at the heart of our work with member states, supporting peace building, rule of law, and access to justice, and helping countries build institutions that are more accountable, effective, and inclusive. In our meeting today, there is a strong focus on Africa's experience, and rightly so. Much of the progress in developing governance statistics, particularly through surveys, has taken place in Africa. Africa has been a pioneer in this space with the 𝗓𝗪, the Governance, Peace and Security module, laying important groundwork for national data collection on governance issues. The Prior Group itself, hosted by 𝗂𝗶 𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏, is the first UN Statistical Commission city group to be based in Africa. This global leadership reflects both the innovation and the commitment of African countries to advancing official statistics in areas that are essential to inclusive, transparent and accountable governance. So this morning, we look forward to hearing from our esteemed co-hosts and engaging in a rich and lively discussion with contributions from both colleagues in the room and those online. We are pleased to have also with us in the room distinguished colleagues from the Gambia, with whom we've been working on these issues, where UNDP has been working through our funding windows modality. For those on Zoom, please feel free to share your questions or comments in the chat. We'll be monitoring them and we'll try and bring them into the discussion segment. I will need to be strict on time, I'm afraid, to all speakers, as we are starting a little bit late. So if I start shifting nervously in my seat, please wrap up. But knowing we are all eager to hear from our distinguished co-hosts, I would now like to invite Ambassador Matthew Joyini, Permanent Representative of South Africa, to the UN, followed by Ambassador Tanya Ronaldo, Permanent Representative of 𝗂𝗶 𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏 to the UN, to deliver opening remarks.
Thank you, Program Director. I have 3 minutes, as I understand. Is it 5?
I think you have a little bit more if you would like.
Oh,
5 would be
fine. Okay,
5 would be excellent.
Because I time it like how many ways?
Very disciplined. If it's 3 or 5.
But anyway, thank you.
I saw it on the paper.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And let me also acknowledge my dear colleague and friend, Ambassador Tanya. And ASG, thank you very much. And our colleagues from the African Center for Statistics and the president of the National Institute of Statistics of 𝗂𝗶 𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏. And I heard that also our colleagues from the Gambia are also here. I think as South Africa, we really appreciate when we see a UN agency that's working so closely with member states. So as we develop frameworks, norms, and so forth, and an agency like the UNDP gets on with it and implements on the ground in a meaningful way for our countries, and we do appreciate that. So that collaboration is important. And South Africa is a long-standing member of the UN Statistical Commission and was part of the design of SDG16 indicators in the interagency expert group on SDGs. We've been with this for a while. We're also a long-term partner of the Prior Group at a political and political level. And we are therefore committed measuring SDG16. And our 2025 SDG country report, which will be published September this year, will include an update on SDG16. We've also aligned our SDG16 to our NDP. So we have an NDP that talks to Agenda 2063 and talks to the 2030 agenda, and in the SDG16 is very, very much strong and key. And a decade after the 2030 agenda for sustainable development was just ratified, while countries are able to report on the indicators, we still face significant challenges in monitoring progress with regard to SDG 16. And a major issue that is the lack of disaggregated data for SDG 16 indicators, complementing reporting despite the improvement in many of our development. Program director countries need to accelerate reporting on SDGs at a country level, particularly reporting on SDG 16. The second Global Progress Report on SDG 16 warns that neglecting key trends could threaten international goals and endanger vulnerable. And while some progress has been made, significant efforts are still needed to close data gaps before the 2030 period. And in this respect, South Africa focuses on partnership and collaboration with relevant institutions to close those data gaps. So, colleagues, human rights are vital to the 2030 agenda, and SDG 16 is also important in driving progress across all those SDGs. And our success relies on a commitment to building inclusive, transparent, and accountable institutions and another interest of ours is investment in justice and robust institutions. So we need to invest so that we can have lasting benefits for economic growth, social resilience. And this, to wrap up this particular event that we're having today is quite important. It is coming before tomorrow, which is International Nelson Mandela Day. So if you allow me, I will to and say to as we honor the legacy of Nelson Mandela development and the UN at the center of development and all that we do, security and human rights. And we invite you to be part of the commemoration of Nelson Mandela Day tomorrow in the General Assembly, but also in the afternoon, giving back to, we usually have 67 minutes of giving back, and we will be doing that for the city of New York, at the Governor Island, cleaning it up, because it's used for the public. It's a public space, so we will be doing that, and we invite you to both events in the General Assembly, but also if you're able to join us at the Governor Island. On that note, I'll end that note. I have my expert here. Take the issues further. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for outlining your leadership in this area and a strong alignment with your national development priorities with Agenda 2023 and the 2030 agenda. We are very grateful for your support in so many ways on these issues. So I will turn now to Ambassador 𝗔𝗺𝗯𝘀𝘀𝗱ecie, Permanent Representative 𝗑𝗶𝗏 to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good morning to everyone, ESG, 𝗔𝗺𝗯𝘀𝗀𝗱, and also people on the platform. And I see at least two from Cabo Verde. Hi, how are you? But of course, this hi is for everyone.
Hi from Cabo Verde.
That's our president of the National Institute of Statistics. Yeah. Esteemed guests, ladies, gentlemen, it's a great honor to be here today and take the floor at this special event dedicated to a theme of utmost importance: the central role of statistics in promoting peaceful, just, and inclusive societies as envisioned in SDG 16 of the 2030 Agenda. For Cabo Verde, this topic carries particular significance. Our country's development path has been firmly rooted in unwavering commitment to democracy, good governance, human rights, and institutional strengthening. Since our independence 50 years ago, we have steadily consolidated a model of state grounded in transparency, the rule of law, and civic participation. And we have also continuously strived to ensure that this model is reflected in public policies that are evidence-based and supported by high-quality statistical data. In this context, we take great pride in being the host country and coordinator of the Praia Group on Governance Statistics, a UN Statistical Commission city group established in 2015 with a mandate to develop international standards for measuring various dimensions of governance. In our view, the experience of the Praia Group offers clear evidence that small island developing states can also lead and make meaningful contributions to the global agenda, even in complex and sensitive areas such as democratic governance. The work carried out by the Praia Group over the past decade has been nothing short of transformative. By filling a historic gap in the international statistical system, namely the absence of global agreed methodologies to measure issues such as justice, corruption, policy participation, and discrimination, the group has helped place governance at the heart of the Sustainable Development Agenda, not merely as a guiding principle, but as a measurable and trackable dimension. It is important to emphasize that this progress would not have been possible without the active involvement of countries from the global south, and in particular, African countries. They have shown exemplary commitment to this agenda. Many of these countries, our countries, have contributed to methodological development, participated in field testing, and embraced also the idea that measuring governance is above all an act of public responsibility and a sign of democratic maturity. Thanks to this collective effort, the Praia Group led the development of the first UN-endorsed handbook on governance statistics, launched in 2020, and which is a reference document that has been guiding countries across all regions on issues once deemed too difficult or politically too sensitive to be captured with statistical rigor. The progress achieved has been accompanied by a growing technical and political consensus around the importance of these statistics in monitoring SDG 16 and advancing the broader 2030 agenda. Looking ahead, the upcoming session of the UN Statistical Commission next year will be a critical juncture. At that time, new methodological instruments developed by the Praia Group will be presented for consideration by member states. One focused on participation in political and public affairs, and the other on non-discrimination and equality. Both are tools, they resulted of rigorous technical progress, including, again, field testing in diverse contexts and validation by experts and international partners. Their formal endorsement would mark a milestone in the consolidation of global standards that enable countries to measure with technical legitimacy and comparability topics that have a profound impact on the quality of democracy, institutional functioning, and social inclusion. For this reason, we would like to underscore the importance of renewing the mandate of Praia Group beyond 2026. We firmly believe that this renewal will be essential to consolidate the progress achieved expand methodological work to other areas of governance, such as freedom of expression, electoral integrity, and public safety, and also continue supporting countries in applying those tools. Sustaining the collective effort also means ensuring that the voices of developing countries remain an integral part of shaping a global statistical system that is more inclusive, more reflective of diverse realities, and more aligned with the principles of equity and social justice. To conclude, Cabo Verde reaffirms its full commitment to continue leading and facilitating the process in close coordination, of course, with our international partners, with all national statistic offices, and of course, with the UN agencies that have provided technical support to the PRAIA group since its inception, such as UNDP, OHCHR, UN Women, and UNODC. We also reiterate our conviction that without data, there is no transparency. Without transparency, there is no trust. And without trust, sustainable development is impossible. Investing in governance statistics is ultimately investing in human dignity, social cohesion, and the resilience of our democratic systems. I thank the organizers of this event, in particular UNDP Global Policy Center for Governance, for the opportunity to share this message. And Cabo Verde, again, remains fully committed to ensuring that SDG16 is no longer among of the most neglected goals. It should be recognized and treated as what it truly is, a foundational pillar of the 2030 agenda. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for outlining how the work on... No, outlining how the work on official governance statistics owned by member states is central to the quality of democracy, social inclusion, equity, transparency, trust, and ultimately sustainable development at the heart of what UN and Agenda 2030 is about. And thank you, Cabo Verde, for your leadership in this. It has truly been a privilege for UNDP to support, along with other UN agencies, this group technically over the years. So now I will hand to Assistant Secretary General and Director of UNDP's Bureau of Policy and Programme and Support, Marcus Neto, who I realise I failed to introduce and welcome my opening remarks. My boss. So I forgot. It's not right. Marcus will help us for today's on where we stand globally on SDG 16 in terms of progress and persistent challenges. Assistant Secretary General.
I got more time. Now, it's absolutely fine to forget me when you have two luminaires here, ambassadors. Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here for UNDP. Welcome again to the Family and Friends Duty. This is for the FF duty, Family and Friends. So, and also good morning, good afternoon, good evening to whoever's online in that sense. Together with our fellow SDG custodian agencies, UNODC and UNHCR, UNDP is OHCH is proud to provide an annual global progress report on SDG 16. Next edition will be launched in September at UNGA and in Geneva this October. It will offer deeper insights into global trends and spotlight country-level reforms that are driving change. And it's important to note that we have also seen real improvement in data availability. As Ambassador Tanya mentioned, without the data, there is no transparency, no trust. So let's be honest, we have seen progress. Between 2023 and 2025, the proportion of countries with SDG 16 data rose from 37% to 54%. That is meaningful progress, but yet not enough. Governance data is often politically sensitive and difficult to measure. But when grounded in professional independence and methodological rigor, official statistics offer something indispensable: a trusted foundation for dialogue, for accountability. That's why the work of the prior group on governance statistics is so essential, as we've heard it. Plays a vital role in developing international standards and tools to guide the production of official governance statistics, including the very indicators used to track SDG 16. Thanks to the prior group, national statistic officers are increasingly equipped to measure complex issues like political participation, discrimination, and access to justice. This is why UNDP has been a lead supporter of the group from the very beginning, and why we remain firmly committed to its work today. But despite this progress on data availability, Secretary General's SDG Progress Report, released just this Monday, offered a sobering assessment of where we stand on SDG 16. 2024 alone, nearly 50,000 lives were lost to conflict, 1 every 12 million, fortunately affecting women and children. By the end of last year, 123 million people have been forcibly displaced. While global homicide rates declined by 12% between 2015 and 2023, we are still far from the 50% reduction target. Access to justice remains out of reach for many. 1 in 3 prisoners worldwide is held without a proper sentence. Human rights defenders and journalists continue to face growing risk. The number of journalists killed rose by 38% in 2024, with conflict zones especially dangerous. Yet, there are also progress. Budget reliability has improved, access to information laws have expanded, and more countries now have functioning human rights institutions. But the reality remains stark. No SDG 16 target on track. This is a moment that calls for urgent action. Protect lives, restore trust, and uphold rights. That means investing in peace building, justice reform, and civic space, strengthening institutions, and addressing the root cause of conflict and exclusion. It also means sustained political will and international cooperation to deliver lasting results. We must reframe SDG 16 not only as a multilateral commitment, but as a strategic investment, one that underpins every other goal in the 2030 agenda. As Ambassador Tanya mentioned, the foundation of the SDGs. And right now, we have an opening to do just in a bit of an open area. If we look at the end of the financial development process and the outcome of the 2025 Seville conference, the Compromiso de Sevilla, there's an opportunity to elevate SDG 16 within global development. The outcome is clear. Mobilizing finance for sustainable development requires far more than just capital. It requires building trustworthy, capable, and inclusive institutions, strengthening domestic resource mobilization, tackling illicit financial flow, and ensuring that public investment is equitable and accountable. Compromiso de Sevilla highlights the need for participatory governance and social dialogue, since rebuilding the social contract and restoring trust in institutions are essential to unlock the scale of financing needed to deliver the 2030 agenda. In other words, commitment of Seville recognizes that progress on SDG 16 must be at the heart of the development of financing agenda. SDG 16, therefore, is not just another goal. It is a foundation enabler, a de-risking development finance by building stable and transparent systems that funders and people, investors, can trust. At UNDP, we see this every day. Every day, investments in SDG 16 help countries prevent, navigate, and recover from crisis. They accelerate progress across multiple sectors, from health to education, from climate resilience to economic recovery. But no single actor can do this alone. Delivering the SDG 16 demands genuine partnerships, rooted in shared goals, mutual accountability, and sustained engagement across governments, international organizations, civil society, the private sector. And here, allow me to thank the years of partnership and contribution of the government of Norway for our work on SDG 16. It also requires empowering national and local ownership leadership, ensuring that the people closest to the challenges are at the forefront of designing and driving the solutions. Now it's time to push for concrete financial commitments to peace, justice, and inclusion, and to ensure the value they deliver is clearly understood, measured, and prioritized. There is an opportunity before us to reassess SDG 16 as a central pillar of national and global development agendas, and to back it with investments, partnership, and political will that it demands. UNDP remains fully committed to this effort. Let me close where I started, with the focus on today's discussions. We cannot deliver on SDG 16 or any part of the 2030 agenda without good data. Reliable, disaggregate, and timely data is essential to see where change is happening, where gaps remain, where efforts must be intensified. This is especially true for governance, where progress is often difficult to measure and easy to overlook. That's why investing in governance statistics is not a technical luxury. It's a strategic necessity. It equips countries to diagnose challenges, design smart reforms, and drive accountability at every level. If we want institutions that are more inclusive, more just, more effective, we need the evidence to build them. That means backing governance data with the political will and resources it deserves. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Very much, Marcus, for outlining the challenges and but also the progress that we have made on data on Goal 16, but the fact that we need more progress in this area because data is essential for progress on SDG 16. You also outlined the opportunities we have at the moment, particularly in relation to the financing for development agenda. Thank you very much, Ambassadors, Assistant Secretary General. I don't know, you're very welcome to stay with us. We have a panel discussion now, which you're very welcome to stay for, but I understand that you have other things on your agenda.
You're good missing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We wish you a successful panel.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Also
to see
to
a
our
full
colleagues
list.
in Cabo Verde, but there's still another colleague from Cabo Verde here.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And move chairs. Now there's 3 chairs. There's 3 chairs. Doesn't benefit, right?
Please don't be shy. Come up to the table. I am very excited to see a full room and a lot of people online talking about governance, statistics and governance data. This is really excellent. So we will move now to the panel's discussion, which is on the contribution of governance statistics in driving evidence-based. We have 2 colleagues joining online, Mola Osmari from UNEDCA and 𝗀 Cardoso from Cabo Verde, the National Institute of Statistics. And we have Mr. Solim Molayo here in the room from South Africa. So we will start online with Mola Asmari from the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa's African Centre for Statistics, who will share with us some of the insights and also bright spots from UNECA's Africa SDGs progress report. Is Africa on track to achieve the 2020 goals? I see we have a presentation up on the screen. Please go ahead.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present the result of the analytical work on SDGs we undertake at the Economic Commission for Africa. My name is Mola. I'm a statistician. I lead in the area of data innovation and the use of technology for statistical production processes in Africa. I don't know how much time I'm given, but I'll try to be
Please.
okay, as brief as possible. Okay, I'm going to talk about the methodology briefly, very briefly, and also how much progress we have made continent at the continent. That's globally, at aggregate level. The progress might differ from region to region, from countries to countries, but our analysis cuts across the various sub-regions, the 54 African countries, and also at the continental level. I'll also look into the goals, actually the 17 goals, and also the 169 targets. And I will try also to conclude with what the data situation we have in Africa in the context of SDGs. In terms of methodology, what we are trying to answer here is how much progress Africa has made, not only Africa, the sub-regions, the countries so far as we stand now, and also are the targets going to be achieved. This is how we look at it. So we are trying to do a bit of projection and to look into whether our targets could be achieved by 2030. This is very briefly methodology. We've worked with the Asia and the Pacific, our counterpart, the Regional Commission, to come up with an objective and pragmatic approach of measuring SDGs. Looking at the result at Africa level, we have no SDG that we are likely to achieve by 2030, as you see on the screen. However, 12 of the SDGs have slight progress since 2015. That's how it, and there are 5 SDGs which are regressing compared to the 2015 mark. And again, it is also worth saying that the goal 5, 12, 13, and 16 are data poor SDGs. So, and our data is actually coming from the United Nations Statistics Division, where it compiles across the world and puts together all the SDG data compiled from custodian agencies and member states. But we, from our investigation, our close working relationship with countries, we have witnessed that there are more data in member states that are not yet shared with the global database. Looking at the targets, we have 5 targets which are likely to be achieved on the continent. And we have around 71 targets which have shown some progress. And there are 29 targets which are regressing as we stand now. And there are around 60 targets which are data poor again, which we are not able to measure at the continental level. But again, as I said, it differs from region, sub-region to region, and also differs from country to countries. Looking at just zooming into the SDG 16, SDG 16 has shown slight progress. When we look at on the goal level, we were only able to measure 6 targets out of the 12 targets, and we were only able to measure 7 indicators out of the 24 indicators we have on SDG 16. So this is how it looks like in terms of result. For example, 16.2 target and point 2 indicators have regressed from the 2015 mark. Looking at the data landscape, we've developed a data situation index from 0 to 100, which is a scientific tool to assess status of data landscape on SDGs. We looked into 4 areas: data availability, how many indicators data are available for against the respective number of indicators. How are the disaggregation based on the SDG framework? There are expected disaggregations across indicators and targets. And we also look into data density, how complete the data looks like in terms of annual data, and also how current the data we have. Statistically, we try to estimate, project, impute, but that's not the case. But we look into the existing data in terms of currency, data density, data disaggregation, and availability, and the result looks not so good in Africa. Again, from 0 to 100, 100 being the best, and we stand now in Africa. This is at the continental level, 51.6%, and looking in across the 4 dimensions, disaggregation, we don't have enough disaggregation data to measure the notion of leaving no one behind. We also looked at in terms of against countries. We have some countries which have scored almost 60% of the situation index, but there are also other countries which are not really doing well. Like 22 countries do not have do have 50 and less score. We also looked at against scores against goals, and we have 10 of the SDG which have 50 and below, which includes goal 16 as well. So to conclude, I have a few way forward. Again, we alluded to, as always, we need to strengthen the data ecosystem to embrace the private, the international organizations, the global statistical system to really enrich the data we have on SDGs. Again, we, as I said in the beginning, we have more data in countries, but there are no platforms, dissemination platforms, reporting platforms in place so that we can tap into the available data to measure SDGs. So we encourage all countries to have dashboard. We have pilot countries on the continent. I have worked in 5 pilot countries, and we need to encourage all countries to, and disaggregation is very important, surveys and censuses to have more questions to disaggregate. Again, partnership. This is not something that countries could do it alone. They need to leverage international organizations, sub-regional organizations, the private sector, the big tech companies. So that's my presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed for that really rich presentation. There's a lot of data there, and I appreciate you going fast, but I will have to go back and look at some of that data in more detail myself. But thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're going to move now also online to João Cardoso, who is the president of the National Institute of Statistics of Cabo Verde and chair of the Prior City Group on Governance Statistics. And he will share with us the important work that is being advanced this year, which the ambassador also spoke to a little bit, and what's next for the group. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. We will share your slides. So, Excellencies, colleagues, distinguished guests, how can we build just, inclusive, and accountable society if we don't measure how can public institution function can serve the people? So I will start my presentation. First slide.
Okay.
João, 1 second, please. José Eduardo. A sua
Next
apresentação
slide.
tá parada neste momento. Poderia parar de apresentar e apresentar novamente, por favor? Obrigada. E tento partilhar outra vez. José Eduardo? Ok.
Put in the more presentation, Jose. Full screen, I think is better.
We see the
I'm
first
sorry
slide.
for this constraint. Jose,
Yes.
next slide. Next slide. Move to the next slide, please.
Yes.
Technical problem. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. There's always a tech glitch somewhere. It's challenging these hybrid meetings. We certainly see the first slide. It's not in presentation mode. We see the opening one. We don't see the second slide.
No.
We have a technical problem. I will try to solve it.
Okay, José, maybe can you stop share and we share it from our side? Would that be okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So please stop sharing. Sina, can you please share from our side? Colleagues, just 1 minute, please.
Yes, 1 second.
Thank you so much.
Mariana, can you share the slide?
Sina is just opening now. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very
She's
much.
opening. She's okay. Thank you.
Yes,
And
okay.
apologies for the interruption.
So you can move to the next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. So I will start my presentation. Good morning, everyone. Excellencies, colleagues, distinguished guests. How can we build just inclusive and accountable society if we don't measure how public institutions function can serve the people? The prior group on governance statistics was created to respond to this challenge. It was established in 2015 by the UN Statistical Commission to help establish international standards and methods for compiling statistics on governance, a field that is inherently complex, but absolutely essential. Because governance is more than a theoretical concept or a political slogan, it must be made visible, measured, and monitored through robust comparable statistics if we are serious about holding institutions accountable and improving their performance. In its first mandate, the prior group developed the book of governance statistics, which laid out a statistical framework that includes 8 dimensions of governance: non-discrimination and equality, participation in political and public affairs, openness and transparency, access to and quality of justice, responsiveness of institutions, absence of corruption, trust in institutions, and safety and security. This effort was pioneering because it was the first global initiative to provide guidance to National Statistics Office on what should be measured and how to measure it, building on a critical review of existing governance data collection practices. Next slide, please. Thank you. This framework on governance statistics developed by the prior group led to the integration of governance as a standalone domain of official statistics in the revised classification of statistical activities adopted by the UN Statistical Commission in 2023. This endorsement signifies a major step forward. Governance statistics are now mainstreamed into the global statistical system, confirming their importance and encouraging countries to allocate resources and political will to produce and use their statistics. Next slide, please. The prior group is now in the second term, and our current mandate is to further improve the methodologies and the standardization of governance statistics. Two priority thematic areas emerged from consultation with our members, namely the dimension of participation in political and public affairs and non-discrimination and equality. In global context marked by deep inequalities and growing political disengagement, we choose to focus our efforts in these two critical areas that lack the international methodology and guidance. We are particularly mindful of the financial and the capacity constraints faced by national statistical offices across the world. That is why we ensure to develop instruments that are low cost, easy to implement, and suitable for regular use, namely short survey modules consisting of about 10 core questions that can be embedded into the larger surveys, and guidance on leveraging existing administrative data, such as a voter register or public service delivery data, to help produce more timely and more granular statistics on political participation, discrimination, and inequalities. To operationalize this agenda, the prior group established two task teams. The participation task team is chaired by Statistical Array and supported technically by UNDP and UN Women, and the non-discrimination task team is co-chaired by the Statistical Office of Finland and Peru, and support technically by UNDP and OHCHR. These task teams bring together over 100 members each, primarily from NSOs, but also from international and regional organizations, academia, and civil society. This collaborative model ensures that the tools developed are methodologically sound and relevant across diverse contexts. Next. Very briefly, on the topic of participation, we look at both electoral participation and everyday participation outside of election. We also consider the enabling environment for participation, such as access to information and social or cultural barriers, such as negative attitudes toward the women and other groups in the political leadership. On the topic of discrimination, we examine both discrimination and harassment based on international prohibited grounds, whether individual reports such incidents to whom they report then, and if they don't, the reasons why not. We can also try to capture emerging issues that are growing in importance, but are not yet systematically measured, such as the use of social media for political engagement and the increasing prevalence of online harassment based on identity factors such as gender, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation. Next. So far, over 30 cognitive and field test experiences have been carried out, mostly on a voluntary basis in countries from all regions and different socio-political contexts. These tests are crucial to validate the clarity and cultural appropriateness of the survey questions. The high level of voluntary engagement by statistical office around the world is a clear testament to the strong country ownership of the ongoing methodological work, as well as the significant demand at national level for this type of data. Next. Looking forward, the prior group is preparing for a global consultation process planned for September-October 2025. We will invite feedback of the final drafts of the methodological tools from a broad range of stakeholders, including statistical office, UN agencies, civil society, academia, and the development partners. The instruments will then be adjusted based on the insights gathered through the global consultation and submit to the UN Statistical Commission for endorsement in March 2026. Next, final. Distinguished colleagues, the prior group works transcends technical statistical work by making governance measurable and visible. We empower citizens, inform policymakers, and strengthen democratic accountability. This is our core motivation, ensuring that the governance moves from abstract theory to concrete data-driven reality. I invite all of you to join us in this endeavor as a data producer, data user, analysts, and advocates to make governance statistics a catalyst for positive change. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for laying out the work of the such impressive work of the prior city group over the years. The handbook, I have a copy on my desk in this building and a copy on my desk at home. So I highly recommend that to you. But also the very, very important work going forward that is to be taken to the Statistical Commission next year. So thank you so much to the colleagues in Cape Verde, the whole of the prior city group, members who are here, and the colleagues who have also supported technically, as well as the donors who have supported this work over years. I will turn now to the final panelist who's here in the room, so I hope we won't have any tech lectures. Mr. 𝗖𝗯𝗀𝗀 is the Acting Deputy Director General of the Population and Social Statistics from Statistics South Africa. And he will share with us South Africa's experience in tracking progress on SDG16 and the importance of governance statistics in South Africa.
Thank you so much. I think I've asked the colleagues to project the slides so that we don't get delayed. Maybe can project.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, colleagues. Good day, colleagues who are joining online. I think my submission today is just to showcase how National Statistical Agency work with policymakers by bringing statistics closer to the policymakers. So my presentation, the next slide, will demonstrate how South Africa have done this in terms of looking at the SDG. I'm not going to get into the details in terms of what is the SDG. I think we all know what the SDG16 is. But I think the point that I'm making here in the slide is that if you look at South Africa from the policy perspective, there's a couple of number of policies that related to SDG16. There is a policy that talks to crime and violence and prevention strategy, which is key for the country in terms of trying to deal with the issues around violence and crime. There is also a national policy guidelines for victim empowerment, which is also a key policy for South Africa to make sure that multi-sectoral approach is addressing the needs of victims of crime and violence. We also have a national statistics act that deals with gender-based violence and femicide. And this is clearly dealing with the issues that we're discussing in terms of the SDG16. And then the last one, we have a strategy that talks to the anti-corruption, we say at the national level. And this is also one of the policy or the strategy that's also as government we have also putting on the table. The next slide, please. So what have we done as a national statistics agency? Because if you look at what we've been discussing since from Monday, it's the issue of looking at the SDGs. But we do have other frameworks. In the continent, we have the Agenda 23. In the regions, we also have frameworks that talks to different themes of statistics. And in the centerpiece, we have our National Development Plan. Now, as a National Statistical Agency, what we have done is that we have mapped all the indicators starting from the SDG, moving to the continent up until the National Development Plan. The reason being is that we wanted to see how we can leverage the data that we're having, the data sources, link them with the SDG, but at the same time, we're able to report on the other frameworks. This integrated indicator framework, it helps us in 3 ways. One, we were able to identify what is the information gap. So you're able to tell which are the indicators you're not reporting on. We're also able to tell in terms of the quality of this data that we're having, and also the issues of capacity. So as a national statistical agency, this is the work that we have done in terms of trying to link the policy and the statistics. We are now at the point where we are trying to go down to the local level because they do have also frameworks. I have colleagues who are coming from the local government who are familiar with some of these frameworks because we really need to map it up until to the local level. The next slide, please. I think if you look at South Africa, where we're sitting in terms of the indicators, I think my colleagues from ECA already mentioned in terms of the progress. But zooming into South Africa, particularly for SDG 16, we have 18 indicators, we have 9 SDGs, and we have 9 that we have make sure that we localize it to our own environment. In terms of the data availability, we're sitting about 82%. Definitely, there's more work to be done in terms of us moving to a number that we all, I think we're all wishing for, which is 100% of data availability. But there's still work to be done. There's still 4 indicators that we're not reporting on, and we really need to find a way how we bring. And the slide that I presented before, it's helping us to identify this type of indicators that we can actually present on. The next slide. How are we gathering this data and putting it together? We have a strategy that we've used in terms of a governance structure where we're having 3 independent groups starting at the top, which is the National Coordinating Committee, which largely giving a strategic direction in terms of how best we can put together the SDG report in South Africa. We have a sectoral working group that deals with all the technical matters. Here, we're discussing issues about the indicators, we're reviewing them, suiting them to our local needs, where data can be found. And then we're interrogating the indicator values, including also making sure that it's of good quality. Then the last group, it's the group that talks, that's responsible for putting together in terms of writing the report. And these are independent authors of the country report. Next slide. I think this slide is showing you who are the data providers vis-a-vis the sources, and you see that the National Statistical Agency is contributing in terms of the sources from the indicators, but we're working with our sister departments from police, from National Prosecuting Authority, up until the legal. So there is a variety of users that are assisting, so making sure that South Africa reports on these indicators. The next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Obviously, I'm a statistician, so I have to show numbers. So I'm not going to bore you with so many slides of table of numbers. We'll go quickly. I know statistics is not always a good subject for many of us. But if you look at this indicator 16.1.1, we see that over time from 2015, the number of murders victims per 100,000 in South Africa have increased from the 33.2% to 45.1%. This, I think, it talks to the presentation that was made by the various speakers in terms of us achieving these indicators. We still have the more work to be done. The next slide. These 2 indicators talk about the safety, feeling of safety, whether it's daylight or the night. And we've seen that over time, those who felt safe walking alone at night decreased from 37% to 35 or 34.9%. And this indicator, when you look at it in the report and you break it down by male and female, you see that more females are saying they're feeling unsafe to walking at night. So there's more work that needs to be done in terms of ensuring safety. The next one talks about the school attending children who have experienced any physical punishment or psychological aggression at school. And this slide is demonstrating that since from 2015 up to 2024, we've seen a decrease in terms of the proportion of children who are actually experiencing this physical punishment. The next slide. This is also a key slide for government department in terms of trying to understand how many, or in terms of proportion from the population, are satisfied with the last experience of public services. And you can scan through some of the department or that were actually part of our survey. And thanks to prior group, we're working very close with them to make sure that these indicators are in line and are also close to the international best practice. And again, you see that for police, there's a decline in terms of those who say they're satisfied with the services from 7.1% to 37.3%. The next slide talks about how important it is to work with the policymakers. And these are some of the comments that we're getting from the policymakers. You know, whether it's starting from the left-hand side of the screen, where you're talking about the access to government services, where it's very key that when you're presenting these numbers, it shows them as policymakers, where are some of the gaps? If you look at the issues around the level of trust in government and public institutions, it is a critical information, especially from colleagues who are coming from the legal fraternity. They want to know about this information. What we have also done as a National Statistical Agency is that for the past 30 years, South Africa has enjoyed its democracy starting from 1994. So in 2024, we as a National Statistical Agency, we are part of the group that put together a 30-year review of South African democracy, and statistics was part and the heart of this report. The next slide, which we're getting to the end, Chair, before saying my time is finished. I think, colleagues, these are the three challenges that I can sum up some of the discussion that we had today. One, it has to do with the information. I already explained to you that we already met us from the SDG up until to our national development plan. There's an issue around the statistical system in South Africa currently not responding to all the indicators, and we still have to wait and see how they can. Already this morning we spoke about how we can invest in data, and especially in statistics. The issue of how we can move the indicators from the national to the sub-national. I think that is the key for most of the countries. It's good and well to report on these indicators at the national level. We really need to go down to the local municipalities and able to share these indicators. You can imagine if you have a report at the SDG level that talks to the local issues, that will be great for all of us. And I think the last one is the issue of we cannot do that. We really need to work together, collaborate, and make sure that our national statistical system, whether at the continent or whether the global, we need to work together. I think, Chair, my last contribution is that to assist the colleagues to say, let's move to 2030. So if imagine today is 2030 and someone who was 15 years old in 2015 when we adopted the SDG, that person would have spent almost half of the adulthood, if you may say so, with the experiencing the SDGs. Now we need to ask ourselves, what will be the impact in that individual? When we are moving towards the 5-year that is left, we really need to work together and shape the adulthood of this individual. And the SDGs, with the 5 years that is left, you really need us to work together. And National Statistical System is the critical, important entity that will play a role to make sure that we measure these indicators. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are exactly on time. That's the precision of a statistician, I think. But thank you. But I appreciated so much your laying out where South Africa has gone in this journey, but also laying out where you want to go now and rooting it at the end into the lived experience of people. That while we're talking about data and statistics, ultimately what we are seeking to support here is the quality of people's lives and their agency and their ability to engage in political processes and to live their lives and to make choices. And so I very much appreciate that you ran